The last thing Kyle remembered was the screaming. His own voice, raw and broken, echoing through the sterile hospital corridor. The lights above him flickered, and the cold tile floor pressed against his knees as he begged the doctor not to pull the plug. But it was too late. Machines hissed their final breath, and with them, his sister, his only family, slipped into silence. His hands trembled, clutching hers, still warm, still human, yet already gone. Shame burned inside him like acid. He had promised her he'd protect her, promised he'd always be strong enough. But when it mattered most, he was powerless, useless. The world didn't end with her, it ended with his failure. His voice cracked in the empty room. I should have been the one. And as if the universe had been listening, his vision collapsed into darkness, pulling him into a void that felt colder than death itself.
Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Belgium, midnight in Nairobi, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France, I want to know. Don't just sit back, tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. Kale opened his eyes, or at least he thought he did. There was no ceiling, no walls, no ground, just endless black, stitched with faint glowing threads like constellations caught in a spider's web. His body was gone. No heartbeat, no breath, no warmth. Panic crawled through him, but before he could scream, a voice thundered, not outside, but inside his very thoughts. Initialization complete, binding host consciousness to system framework. The words rattled his mind like chains snapping shut. His mouth wouldn't move, his hands weren't there. Instead, glowing panels unfurled in front of him, their symbols twisting and rearranging until they formed words he could understand. Welcome, Administrator. His gut twisted. Was this a dream? A punishment? Or worse, was this eternity?
The panels didn't wait for his answer. They multiplied, stacking like glass screens in every direction. Each one pulsed with lives, millions of them. He could see their names, their strengths, their fears, their secrets. Farmers, soldiers, children. He wasn't just looking at people. He was inside their stories. He could tug a thread and change their fate, grant them power, or strip it away. And then came the chilling command, your function to guide, your penalty to feel every failure. His stomach dropped. Suddenly, he saw it, an image of a boy clutching a wooden sword, his village burning around him. The boy screamed for help, and the system whispered, do you intervene or let him die? Kale's non-existent hands shook. He had begged for power once. Now it had come, but not in a form he could escape.
His mind reeled. He wanted to shut his eyes, but he couldn't. He wanted to turn away, but the system forced him to watch. Every choice he made would ripple into thousands of lives. Every mistake would carve scars into souls he didn't even know. Kale swallowed the dread clawing inside him. If this was reincarnation, it was no gift. It was a cage. His sister's lifeless face flashed in his memory, and his chest clenched with shame. Was this his punishment or his second chance? The boy on the panel screamed again, flames licking his skin. The command echoed once more. Do you intervene? Kale hesitated for a fraction of a second, and then the world cracked open around him, dragging him straight into the boy's burning village.
Chapter 2. Before the End. Kale's childhood was painted in muted colors, like a photo left too long in the sun. His father was gone before he could even walk, and his mother vanished soon after, leaving him and his younger sister, Alara, to fend for themselves. The city they lived in wasn't kind to orphans. Rusted fences, graffiti-smeared walls, and broken glass littered the streets of Dreywick, a place where dreams went to rot. Yet Alara had a light about her. She'd laugh at cracked jokes, paint on scraps of cardboard, and braid Kale's hair with shaking little fingers just to make him smile. For Kale, she was the anchor in a storm, the reason he kept breathing when the nights got too cold.
But that anchor came with a crushing weight. He was the only one between her and the world. If he failed, there would be nothing left of them. That truth followed him everywhere, gnawing at him like a shadow he could never outrun.
Cale worked odd jobs, anything he could grab. Fixing bikes, hauling crates, washing dishes in greasy back rooms. His hands were always raw, his back aching. But no matter how much he scraped together, it was never enough. Rent was always late. Alara's textbooks always had missing pages. And when the fever hit her, his world nearly collapsed. He carried her through the rain to the hospital, his clothes clinging to his skin like chains. The doctors frowned at the numbers on the chart, their voices sharp with words he couldn't afford. Treatment, surgery, too late without funds. The guilt swallowed him whole. He stared at his calloused hands and thought, these hands were supposed to protect her. Why can't they? Ilara, pale and fragile, had only smiled from the hospital bed. Don't blame yourself, Cale. You've always done more than enough. But those words felt like knives, because he knew they weren't true.
Despite her weakness, Ilara was always the stronger one. She would tell Cale stories at night, spinning fairy tales of heroes who never gave up, who found light even in endless darkness. One day, Cale, she'd whisper with a grin, you'll be the hero in someone else's story. Her belief in him was unshakable, even when his own faith crumbled. Cale clung to her words like lifelines. But every promise he made, to get her medicine, to bring her back to health, to give her the life she deserved, he failed to keep. The bills stacked higher than his willpower, and with every day, Ilara's strength faded. The night before she slipped away, she held his hand and whispered, "If there is another life, live without regret." Cale nodded through tears, knowing he could never forgive himself.
The day of her death carved itself into Cale's bones. He begged the doctors, offering anything, his labor, his blood, his very life. But the world doesn't trade in desperation. It trades in money, and Cale had none. The moment the machines flatlined, it was as if the earth itself rejected him. His scream wasn't just grief, it was rage at a universe that gave him a role he was never strong enough to play. And in that scream, something inside him fractured. He wasn't just mourning Ilara, he was mourning the man he thought he could become, the protector, the savior, the one who never let her down. Instead, he was a failure, branded by loss. That wound bled into the void, and when the darkness claimed him, it wasn't gentle. It dragged him with the weight of every broken promise he'd ever made.
And then, silence. No breath, no tears, just nothing. Until the voice returned. Administrator consciousness stable. Initial world selection commencing. Kail's vision burned with sudden light. He was no longer in the hospital, no longer in Dreywick. He stood, or rather floated, in a shifting space made of glass and flame, where doors spun endlessly like roulette wheels. Each door bore symbols, glowing in gold and red. A world of swords, a world of machines, a world of shadows. The system whispered, "Choose your world, shape its fate. But remember, every failure you will feel as your own." Kail's chest clenched. Was this some twisted gift from Ilara? Or was this the punishment he deserved? His fingers, or whatever passed for them now, hovered toward the glowing doors. The choice would decide not just his life, but the lives of millions he had never met. The doors spun faster, like a carousel of fate, each glowing symbol humming with temptation. Cale's thoughts scrambled. He wanted none of it. He wanted Ilara back, wanted the hospital lights, the sound of her voice. But the system didn't care about longing. Choose. The command pulsed through him like thunder. His vision blurred until one door stilled, the one carved with fire and steel, world of swords. Its glow flickered against his memory of the boy screaming in flames. Kale clenched, whatever passed for fists. He couldn't let another life burn away. Not again! He pushed forward, and the door cracked open, sucking him into a torrent of fire, ash, and screams. His new reality slammed into him like a blade to the chest. The choice was made.
Kale opened his senses to chaos. The boy's village was a furnace. Roofs collapsing, smoke blotting out the moon, steel-clad raiders tearing through homes. The child he'd glimpsed earlier was real now. Small, dirt-smeared, swinging a splintered wooden sword at a grown man wielding steel. Kale tried to move, but he had no body. The system's voice sliced through the chaos. You are not a warrior, you are the system. Guide your chosen. A glowing panel burst in Kale's sight. Boost strength +10. Grant weapon. Enhance courage. Each option pulsed like a beating heart demanding choice. Kale's gut twisted. If he picked wrong, the boy would die, and Kale would feel every second of it. His hesitation burned like chains on his soul. He chose Grant Weapon. Light surged into the boy's trembling hands, transforming the splintered wood into a gleaming blade of steel. The child gasped, his fear momentarily eclipsed by awe. He swung again, this time cutting through the raider's guard with desperate strength. Kale felt it, not just the victory, but the boy's heartbeat slamming against his ribs, the sting of sweat in his eyes. Their lives were fused. Kale wasn't guiding from afar. He was living through him. Every thought the boy had echoed in Kale's skull. I can't die. Mother's still out there. I can't die. The words struck Kale like lightning. This wasn't just about survival. It was about family. A bond formed in that moment, raw and unshakable. Kale wasn't just an observer. He was a lifeline.
But victory came at a cost. The raider's blade scraped across the boy's arm, tearing flesh. Kale howled though he had no throat. The pain seared him as if it were his own. The system's cold whisper confirmed it. Every wound your chosen suffers, you will feel. Every death, you will live. Kale staggered inside his mind. The child's body trembled, but he stood, clutching the sword like it was forged from his soul. For Kale, it was agony, yet strangely he welcomed it. Pain meant he was there. Pain meant he could protect, even if it shredded him apart. But the raiders weren't finished. Dozens more stormed the burning streets, their eyes glinting with cruelty. Kale's panels flickered with new choices, but none promised survival, only sacrifice.
The boy stumbled back, smoke filling his lungs, and Kale felt himself choking too. His vision blurred with tears that weren't his own. He remembered Alara's last words, live without regret. But how could he if every choice threatened to carve another scar? The system's voice grew sharper, impatient. Select action, time remaining 5 seconds. The boy's mother screamed in the distance, her voice drowning in fire. Kale's mind raced. Strength wasn't enough. Weapons weren't enough. He needed something greater. And then, one panel appeared, glowing brighter than the rest. Bind Soul. His non-existent heart stopped. To choose it meant fusing himself permanently to the boy, sharing not just pain, but destiny. The countdown ticked. 3, 2. Kale's resolve hardened. This time, he would not fail. His finger reached for the light.